My wife has begged me to do a cruise for a while now, and it's been a little bit of a tough sell. I've always been apprehensive about cruises because I'm a touch claustrophobic. But in the end, to get me on board, see what I did there? She only had to say one word. Alaska.
Roll Tide!
We're getting ready to board the ship in like just a few hours here, but I think are going to be downstairs by the time we get down there to pick us up to the view. We're going to Alaska. We made it.
After a day at sea, getting our bearings, and letting me accept my reality, which wasn't near as bad as I thought it might be, we get to our first port, Ketchikan. It's one of the rainiest places on Earth, so no surprises when we pull in. It's raining, but we're here to fish, and we're pumped. At the dock, we meet up with our guide and our other adventure mates, and we get prepped for the day ahead.
For you? Yes, for me.
Okay. What's up, Greenie? We are looking good, Dan.
Good, Juneau. Look, is he a large or what?
Look at all the starfish.
Oh, wow.
Once everybody's outfitted in ill-fitting but very functional rain suits, we head out. We're targeting halibut, But, like most fishermen, I'm just hoping to get into anything that'll bend a rod. So I ask what else is out here.
Fish out here. You know, you could get a lingcod out here. So we pretty much have our whole fleet out here today.
Apparently, it's early on in the halibut season, so we have that working against us. However, the guide says the conditions are great. So with high hopes, we get the safety and instructional briefing.
Pretty simple, guys. Just be careful of these legs. If you reel this thing all the way to the top and start swinging this thing around, it becomes a medieval weapon. Right. So always just try to leave your lead like right about there. If you got a fish on or checking bait, just try to leave it right about there. And you guys can hold your rod, or you guys can use these holders. These holders, you get a nice fish on, you can leave it right here in the holder, you know, and just crank right in here, right? Okay. With these, if you see your, start getting bites, okay, the rod tip starts bouncing a little bit, just try to be patient. Let that rod tip bounce, let it bounce a little bit. When that rod tip bends and stays down for a little bit, a couple seconds, split second, that's when you want one hand on the handle and just crank like heck. That's how you're gonna set your hook.
Okay.
Okay. These are pretty aggressive fish. They're you know, kind of gluttonous actually. They just got to be around this early on the cooler or wherever.
Right on.
Let me get Lane.
With lines dropped, there's nothing else to do but wait. And wait. And wait. And just when you think you've lost all hope and you just can't wait anymore, you wait again. And again. And again. All day. No bites. No excitement. No nothing. So bummed, exhausted, and Elena claiming to be the coldest she's ever been in her life. You know she has a flair for the dramatics. We hit up a local restaurant to warm up and to try and see what we missed out on.
It's sad.
It's sad. It's really good.
It's sad, but it's really good. You know?
This was unequivocally the highlight of our trip. The Dawes Glacier and the fjord that leads up to it. Elena and I both said it was the most beautiful place that we had ever been. So I'm not going to sit here and babble. I just want you to enjoy my best attempts at trying to document this amazing place. Somehow, in the same day that we saw the Dawes Glacier, we're now in Alaska's capital city, Juneau.
You gonna tell everybody what I just did?
Dropped your camera out of the bus.
Great start.
Does it look okay?
That looks fine.
Here, we're scheduled to do what the cruise ship claims is their extreme activity hike. Now, if you've paid attention to any of my other videos in the channel, you know, for the most part, I like doing this kind of stuff on my own. So doing it with a group of people is kind of, as the hippies would say, harshing my mellow. But the guy leading our group is a great kid with a lot of great stories and a lot of great knowledge. So my harsh mellow is mellowed back to normal mellow. I don't know. I'm going to stop speaking hippie. I don't understand it. This hike is to see the Mendenhall Glacier, which is gorgeous in its own right. But I get really excited when we get to the top and the kid asks, "Does anybody want to go higher?" Now it's time for the real fun. We get to the next one and he goes, "Who wants to go higher?" Obviously, it's my favorite direction. We go up. We get to the third lookout and he asks again, "Does anybody want to go higher?" All in all, up and down, we covered about 6.5 miles and ended up enjoying myself a lot. It may not have been the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was definitely enough for me to end up shedding a lot of layers. I learned more about being in the moment, in the experience that everyone is having, instead of wishing that I was off wandering on my own. I still want to wander by myself, but there's a time and a place for that.
Just wanted to take a second, kind of wrap up Alaska a little bit. That last day was a rough day.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Those last couple days, like they were tough. Like that's the reason we don't have a ton of footage from then. It was survival mode. You said it was the worst, like.
Oh, wait, it's not called turbulence. What's it called?
Turbulence.
Sea waves?
Waves, yeah.
I don't know. Wait, there is a word for that. Now it's bothering me.
We spent an entire day basically in the bed.
And just praying that we would go to sleep so we could get past all of those choppy waters.
We should probably look at the elephant in the room just a little bit. While we were on board, we did have somebody fall off the ship.
Yeah, we never actually learned the details of what really happened,
and I think that's probably for the best, that we just leave that alone. But
sketchy though.
It is sketchy.
Like,
so we've now gone and done it. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back to the 1st of May when we were trying to figure out what to pack and what to do, what to see, what to not see? What advice would you give yourself?
Oh, well, the best advice that we actually did do was pack those little vacuum
Oh yeah, the vacuum Ziplocs.
Yeah, that
your clothes,
I cannot imagine if we hadn't done that, because we brought so many jackets and everything. I mean, we went when it was still really cold. It was freezing when we were there, and we needed a lot of options. And since we were doing all these different kind of activities too, we had to bring so much. We would not have been able to fit everything in there had it not been for those.
No, a
vacuum
huge
things.
space saver. Like, I probably need to find those and unpack them, because like I want to use them all the time now.
I know where they are.
Do you? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
what is a piece of advice that you would tell yourself?
That's a good question.
Thanks, I got it from you.
I wish that I would have known that they were gonna give us gear on the fishing trip.
I laugh thinking that what I packed for that fishing trip would have sufficed. I mean, that's hilarious to think back at. I was in like yoga pants and 3 layers, but that was the day, and I know you said it in the video, but that was the coldest I have ever been in my life. And the fact that I was wearing all that plus everything they gave us.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a deer.
Oh God, little guy going across. Probably a year old,
Good
year and a
job.
half. He made it. She made it.
Oh, there's a bunch of them.
Oh, it is a he.
Cute.
Little guy. Couple quick hitting tips that we have. Spend the money, get priority boarding. I can't find a term to tell you how bad it was without cursing.
It was chaos, to say the least. We saw fights break out.
Oh yeah. Once we finally figured out where we were supposed to go and all of that chaos, it took 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was because of the priority boarding.
Absolutely, and it's worth everything. 2, the food was fantastic all the way around. And because of that priority boarding and that next level we decided to go ahead and do, we got basically our own restaurant that was just for our class.
Aqua class.
Aqua class.
It is funny that they still use the word class on cruise ships since the Titanic.
Food was fantastic, to the point where we never really went and tried the main dining area. We just stayed in our restaurant.
Not even never really went. We never went.
We never went.
When it comes to excursions, I feel like you might be more prone to like look into out of party excursions you could do, but I wasn't ready to do that because if you book through the cruise line, they guarantee that even if you come back late, the cruise ship will wait for you. So depending on how you like to experience, you know, the touristy things, because obviously you are a tourist, you don't live there. If you're like us, we prefer to do kind of smaller group things and, you know, feel a little bit more like you're like intimate with your tour guide or whatever you're doing, so you don't feel like you're just part of the mass. One of ours got canceled and then we had to reschedule. I wish that the excursion person would have known the right questions to ask us in order to find out what we actually would have really liked, but they didn't. We ended up on what I felt like was like a herding excursion, so it was just like 100 people probably, and we were on a giant bus and doing kind of hokey touristy things, and that just wasn't what we were looking for. So I mean, definitely ask those questions about, you know, here's what we like. We don't want to just feel like a tourist. We want to feel at least like we're getting a little bit of, you know, what's there in the culture and everything, and not like we're just being shuttled through. So I wish she would have asked us that. We didn't know to ask that.
Not a good video if there isn't a costume change. All right, so in the end, we loved Alaska. Loved everything about it. I think the only thing that I would change is not going to the martini bar every single night of the trip, because then you might miss out on some fun, but we did have a lot of fun. Just make sure that you ask the right questions, kind of like we were talking about earlier about excursions and stuff, because otherwise they're just gonna sell you whatever they got and eat all the food that you can, because all the food was delicious.
I looked at Elena at a certain point on this trip and lamented I cannot imagine seeing this only once in my life. And that's how I feel. I want to go back. Now, the naturalist John Muir wrote to never see Alaska as a young man because you would no longer be satisfied by any other place. And he's right. This trip seemed incomplete, not because of its own fault, but just because there is so much else to see and do. However you can see Alaska, you need to go see it.